Hello, everyone. Life for most of us is filled with hustle, bustle, and chaos, meeting deadlines of all kinds, being a slave to time. And before we know it, the day, the week, the month, and the year is over, and we look back and wonder what we actually have to show for it. We spend most of our time on that hamster wheel of life. And when our lives are that busy and we are that consumed, we kind of expect our joyous moments to be grand gestures, when in fact we should be looking for and creating joyous moments in the smallest of things every day. Silly as it sounds, it seems we need some help learning how to find joy in the simplest of things. And to help us do that, we welcome today here on Syntropy, Dr. Akashni Maharaj, counseling psychologist and the author of the I Am and Love Thyself series. Akashni has also written several books, so she absolutely knows what she's talking about. Dr. Maharaj, or Akashni, as we are known in friendlier terms, thanks so much for joining us here on Syntropy.
Thanks, Uveka, for having me.
So I know that this seems like it's the simplest of things that we should be able to do, but you and I have known each other a while now, and recently your posts have really hit home about feeling joyful. I especially love those you've titled Feeling Joyful. And like I say, it is what most of us think the simplest of things to find, but many of us actually don't know how. So I thought you'd be the perfect person for today's topic. Tell us about, just feeling joyful and what has brought you to this point of giving this advice to others out there.
Well, thank you for that question. And Uveka, the Love Thyself series and being joyful as being part of it is actually the core, where I actually started to come up with ideas of how people can empower themselves. So many individuals coming out of COVID and, the whole, many people losing their jobs, losing family members, there was a lot of apathy in the world. And I felt that we lacked, as individuals, we lacked inner resources. We didn't identify our inner resources. So there's a correction there. We have the resources, but we didn't know how to access it because we were so overwhelmed with whatever's happening in the world outside that we forgot that we are people, we are breathing, we are individuals. So for me, the love thyself and feeling joyful within was to access that part of us that we thought, was just buried and had died with COVID. And that's how that came along.
And you've made a point, Akashni, of sharing your advice and your thoughts on loving ourselves and finding joy. There's obviously a big need for it, as you've definitely identified, not only in the general sense of just interacting with people, obviously from your patients as well.
No, of course, definitely. Most individuals who come for therapy, they come on the ruse that there's, some issue with a family member or work or just having life issues. But my focus is basically to help them tap into their own inner net kind of thing. So you're surfing your own inside net to figure out, okay, what is going on, what's happened, and why have we relinquished our inner power to external. And that is why, empowerment is so important. And the simplest thing of joy seems to be unattainable, but all of us have it somewhere deep down within ourselves. We just need to access it. We need to be able to kind of fine tune to be able to pick where that joy is.
So, Akashni, you've had a bit of a personal journey, which I know about. Are you happy to share that with us and maybe tell us just, how that has brought you to this point where, somebody can go, oh, what qualifies you to tell me how I can find the simplest of joys in my life? And you've had that, sort of coupled with some health challenges as well. Are you willing to share with us what has brought you to this point and what your aha moments were? And when I say aha, I mean, we're not talking epiphanies, but aha in the terms of, dialing it down to find that simple joy, if that makes sense.
No, of course, definitely. So the last, I think it must be the last 3 years, has been a very difficult, rocky road. So the first was COVID, losing lots of loved ones during that time and feeling very despondent. And, in the mix of all of that, when COVID hit, I had major break-in where my entire practice was wiped out. and having to deal with the fact that now there's no work, and then you've got to deal with all that is happening around you. Lockdown happened, and so one of those major things firstly was that loss of income, loss of control over my personal life. And then it was I think a year later I ended up with having a mild stroke, and everybody said it was relating to stress. I beg to differ, but I think it could be a combination of a whole lot of things.
Everything, yes.
But I had a mild stroke, but trapped in your body for like 25 minutes and not knowing whether you're going to come out of it or not. I had to access parts of me that I've been teaching all my patients, that you have this resource within you. You can fight this. You don't. So my motivation for wanting to get out of that trapped feeling for 25 minutes when I was having the entire left side of my body was numb, I realized that we have the power within us to be able to do it. However, at that point, I just needed to get out. I needed to get into a physical space that I could feel more in control of myself. And then that same year, I was bitten by a snake, and then it could not get any worse. Life could not get any worse than that. And then I realized that, everything was about helping me slow down. And I think COVID had taught me such important lessons, is that I needed to regroup. I needed to shut down. So all aspects of my life was being attacked, professionally, personally. And when I got to that place where I realized I've got to wake up, I've got to get moving, because now you're a therapist, and how are you going to give help to others when you really can't help yourself? That's when I realized I actually did not love myself enough to put myself above everything else. And I think we've been taught as we've grown up, that put others first, others' happiness are more important. Yes. We are very, very far down on the priority list. And
absolutely.
And I think I was checking all the boxes about, like, I must be a good therapist, I must be a good wife, I must be a good mother, I must be a good, I must be just good at everything.
Good daughter, everything.
Exactly, everything. And then suddenly when I was completely debilitated, and everything had been literally stripped from me, to say that when you don't have your health, you don't have money, you don't have a business, you don't have anything else, what do you have left?
And hopefully your sanity, but Akashni, I mean, I'm just thinking, you could have, life could have taught you those lessons without the stroke and the snake bite. I'm sure you could have done without that to actually get to this point. But isn't it amazing? And this just got me thinking that a lot of us wait for this major event to happen. And I'm not talking in a positive way. We have to hit some kind of rock bottom. Something has to go drastically wrong for us to actually get to this point where we have to look down to the simplest, basest part of ourselves and find those little joys. Why is that? Why is it that it takes that for us to come to this point?
I think we are running a very, we're running a race. And we want to get to everything as fast as we can. We lose sight of everything else that's on the way. That whole saying is that life is a journey, but everybody is interested in the destination. And
yes.
I think we've all been looking at, where we want to get, our goals, our 5-year, 10-year, doing a strat plan in our head, what we want to achieve, our vision, our mission, all of these things. But at the end of the day, we're doing it for all the wrong reasons, for the external gratification, but we're not doing it. We're not doing it for ourselves. We're not doing it because, it's the right thing to do for us. These are the things that make us happy. These are the things that should bring you joy. These are the things that, matter to you. It just becomes very robotic, and we continuing, as you said earlier, on the hamster wheel, just going. And then when something says to you, forces you. And I do believe the universe gives you a nice kick up your butt when you don't know, when you're not listening. And I
Yes.
do
Or when you
believe
don't, when you refuse to listen, when you don't get the initial messages. Yeah?
exactly. And that knock on the door all the time of like, you know what, come on, you're suffering from burnout, you need to get a rest, you need to go for a massage, you need to just go and decompress, go to the beach or do something, but we just keep going. And I found that I think one of the things that scared me the most is that our days are flying, and I get up in the morning and then I realize it's late again, the next thought is that we are going to bed now and this day is over. And as I don't know whether others would feel this way, but I turned 50 this year. So for me,
wow, happy milestone.
For me, I feel like, if your days are flying so fast, what have you done? What have you done to, to really say that, you know what, you have lived 50 years? Is it all the accomplishments or is it all the tragedies? What is it that defines who you are?
And that's very interesting, because when you say, what have you done? Most people will look up and say, look for the awards on their walls, look for the trophies, look for the accolades, look for the bonuses that have come their way. But that's not what we're talking about.
No, right? but I did a post the other day about imposter syndrome. So even though you've achieved all of those things, 99% of us are suffering from also imposter syndrome. So even as much as you're achieving, you're still not getting to enjoy it. And
absolutely.
So what is the point of all of it? So, for me, I remember saying, somebody said something. I was very young. I must have been about 16 or something. And I went for a wedding. And, these Indian weddings are so lavish and all of that. And a lady was sitting next to my mom. And so the girl that was getting married, she was a doctor. And so the lady that's next to me, she says, the mother-in-law of that girl that's getting married told her, you can get all your degrees. Your degrees is worth nothing in my house except put it onto the toilets if that's important to you. And, I was so devastated. I was thinking, she worked so hard to get this and she's not going to do anything with it. But, only later on in life did I realize that mother-in-law probably had the right idea in terms, but just executed it incorrectly.
Yeah, yes.
Very badly.
As most mothers-in-law, shame, I'm joking. No, they don't. But you're right. I mean, the idea was you can have all of that, but what quality of life does it actually bring you, I suppose, is the message. And Akashni, generally, those of us who are, whether you're working, whether you're a stay-at-home mum, which for me is a harder job than anything else, are we in the habit of just slogging away, and then we save for that one big break that we give ourselves in the year, whether it's a July holiday, whether it's a December holiday, and often we are so exhausted and stressed and we're so moody, and many of us actually get sick in those first few days of our leave, that when it actually comes, we actually suck the joy out of that time. And I don't know if we need to move out of that mindset where we look for that one big reward at the end of the year, or at some point in the year, rather than rewarding ourselves almost every day.
I learned that the hard way, because
through a snake bite, yes.
And our children, I remember at a holiday, my children were so miserable because we had all these things, go here, go do this, do that. So what was the point of a holiday? Is it just to go and, go and tick all your boxes of all the destinations you want to see? Or is a a time for you to regroup, to reevaluate and, relook at what life is? And that's when I realized your holiday should be every single day. And
every single day.
It sounds crazy, and people think, oh no, we have to schedule time, we have to schedule like a half an hour for all of that. For me, the holiday, the reset mindset is that every day I need to take at least half an hour to walk outside. I need to do something that is not the hamster wheel. I need to jump off the hamster wheel, and I need to go and recharge. I need to go and look at the birds. I need to have a cup of coffee or tea or whatever it is. I need to just be out there and with nobody else around.
And we underestimate the power of just that, even if it's just that half an hour. But,
exactly.
Akashni, those who don't take that time, where we're not looking, just creating those little moments of joy for ourselves and happiness, what is it actually doing to our quality of life? What is it doing to our emotional and spiritual well-being? And even as far as our physical health, I mean, look what happened with you when you talk about that stroke.
Exactly.
And also, what is it doing to our relationships? Let's just go firstly to our quality of life and that emotional and spiritual well-being.
We're running on empty. We got nothing to give. And spirituality is not religion. Spirituality is about how you take care of the energy that lies within you. And if you are not in that space where you're refueling, and refueling is about, doing the little things, just the little joys, that come in your day, you're going to be depleted. You've got nothing to share. And remember, we are social beings. So which means every person we come in contact with, we're either sharing energy or we're giving energy. Because somebody is always somebody is more depleted than you. You'll be very hard pressed to find somebody who has a lot more energy than you.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm saying. So we need to understand that it affects us in such profound ways, that not having enough energy, it changes us so profoundly, and it affects all aspects of our life. We tend to steal from one and to give to the other, and eventually there's nothing left. And that's how it affects us, affects our life, our daily living.
Yeah. And let's talk about our physical health. I mean, you had that experience and that made you slow down. But if we don't take these moments, and most of us know this, most of us know that we're putting ourselves at risk, but it just seems like we brush it aside and until we actually get sick or end up in hospital.
No, of course. I'm very bad at that, with the whole exercise, gymming, all of those things. But, I read a post, I think it was on Facebook, and a young man was taking his 75-year-old mother to travel with him throughout India. And so I read that, and I was reading about the 75-year-old, and she, what her secret is? Her secret is that she walks 45 minutes every day. Wow. And 45 minutes of walking is just around her home. It's nothing major, That's because the son said that she had more energy to travel and to do things than he did. And he was like 20s, 30s, early 30s or so. Yeah. So what we're saying is that, we look at taking care of our physical body as this thing that we have to, it's like a big mountain that we have to climb. But there are very simple things that we can do.
Absolutely.
Even while you're sitting at your desk, instead of sitting on a chair, you use those ergonomic, chairs that help your back and that help you, keep fit, keep energized. So you're not like slouching. So there's simple things that can happen in everyday life where you don't have to allocate half a day to go sit in a gym.
Yeah. Or spend half your salary, because many people think that finding joy or creating it has to come with a hefty price tag, or it's actually not worth it, when in fact the opposite can be very true.
It is. And there's joy in every single thing that you do. When I started to think about my mortality, I realized that, that holiday that we want to go to, ticking all the boxes of the destinations you want to visit in your lifetime, that's not joy. That's work. That is work.
Yes. That's not a holiday. That's not relaxing.
That's not a holiday. No. What's joy? Joy is getting up in the morning and to be able to sit out while the sun rises. Yeah. And to be able to figure out what you're going to do in that day. That's the joy. Yeah. A joy is about having your favorite beverage, sitting with it and just enjoying it. What I love about the American TV is that, at the end of a day, you'll find these high-powered individuals. They'll go and sit and watch the skylight, and they'll have a whiskey in their hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a joy. That's joy.
Well, look, even if you don't have a skyscraper to sit up on at the top there in New York or something, you can do it wherever you are. Look out your window. And, that's the thing, Akashni, is we make time to maybe have an international Zoom meeting at 4 a.m, depending on, what sort of timelines are. We make time to do it at 9 o'clock at night, if that is the demand for work. But we find it so difficult to make that time for ourselves, to get up maybe at 5 and watch the sunrise. But we do it for a meeting.
Yeah.
Or even sit at night and watch the sunset. But we don't make that time. It just seems like it's an effort.
Yeah, because, once again, we think all of that is a waste of time, and it's not a priority. But you know how important...
Why is that? Why is that? Well, sorry to just jump in there, but why is it that we feel that those things, that is a waste of time when we actually investing and pouring into our own cup, even if it's just in that 15 minutes or half an hour?
But for me, I believe that we were brought up that way. We were brought up to be like you. There's like a linear process. You gotta go to school. You gotta get a job. You gotta earn money. You gotta get your 2.5 children. You gotta have your house. You gotta have 2 cars in the garage, and then you've achieved. That's it.
Yes. And you've got to fall into bed exhausted every night.
Yes.
Then you're worth something, hey?
Exactly. So we've been ingrained to believe that nothing else matters. You shouldn't be taking a nap during the day because then you are lazy. You shouldn't be bring home work. Then you're not worried about your family. If you don't have enough money in the bank, which means that you can't provide for your family. If you go for a spa treatment, that means you're wasting money. So
yes,
you
could be using it for something more useful.
Exactly. So we wired that way. We are so wired to believe that this is how you should be living your life. And then somebody comes and says to you, "Hey, you're a human being. You're made up of all these cells and this energy and all of these things. How are you actually taking care of it?" And then you realize that.
Absolutely.
Then you realize it's not about, you're more than just your job. You're more than just being a parent or a daughter, son, but whoever. You're more than that. And suddenly you have to stand up and really now pay attention. And that's...
So,
yeah.
And Akashni, you speak about how this is how most of us were brought up. This is what the expectation is. How do we break that cycle? How do we live our lives? And what can we do every single day to show our own children or, children that we come into contact with? Not everyone is a parent, whether it's nieces, nephews, whether you're a school teacher. How do we actually change that and break that cycle where we are teaching the next generation or our youth to actually not be that way? Because it actually makes you more productive, doesn't it? When you actually take these moments for yourself. It's not to say, like you say, that you're being lazy. And some people go, if I relax, it means I'm not going to be productive. I'm not going to finish my work. How do we break that cycle? How do we start to create this new atmosphere and environment?
Live for today, not tomorrow. And live mindfully. Get up every day with a mindful attitude to know I'm going to enjoy everything I do. It may be boring as hell because you do it to every day the same thing, but just having a meal with your family and enjoying that moment, you will learn so much more as compared to having a robotic mindset where I just have to do this. Now we're having a meal together. You'll get to connect on a much deeper level. So if you're living for today, which means that every single moment is precious because you don't know what's happening in that next moment. You're not living in the future anymore. And that is the key to being joyful. The key is here, now, be present. Like as you and I are talking, we have to be present with each other right now at this point, not just because we are recording a podcast. It's because we need to be able to send a message across, not just to the world, but to each other. Because whoever's listening to this and who's part of this team is also listening to the conversation we're having. So we are being mindful about how we are, where we are, and what we say and what we do.
And being in the moment and listening.
Yes.
Listening is also the key. Listening and you can find your joyous moments in actually listening. And, this leads me to wonder, Akashni, do we have preconceived ideas of what joy is? I mean, like you say, we watch a lot of things, we read a lot of things. So those preconceived ideas, do we limit ourselves when we have preconceived ideas? Because, I mean, let's be honest, the world is a much more open place than when you and I were growing up, right? So if going out for a night on the town in a pink tutu, whether you're a boy or a girl, brings you joy, you can actually do it.
Yeah.
You can actually do it these days, and people may look twice, but then, they brush it off and go, if that's what makes him or her happy.
Yeah. Look, you have to be okay with who you are. You have to be okay with who you are. Our preconceived ideas have to be shattered, but it can't be shattered just, overnight. It has to be done very incrementally, small little chips at it. And eventually you will get to that point where you will live according to your own rules. Because right now we live according to rules that are dictated by parents, society, the world, how the ideal should be. We don't live according to our own rules.
And that also makes me think about what barriers do we create within ourselves? What barriers exist that we don't recognize within ourselves that stop us from experiencing real joy? You mentioned about being happy with yourself. And I would venture a guess that there's a very small percentage of human beings out there who are actually very happy with who they are.
No, it's because of a lack of acceptance. But a lack of acceptance is also a fear. It's a fear that you have to be a certain way. And we try to fit molds that have been created by, by whoever, whoever's out there who's creating molds, and you feel like you need to fit in. And because we want to fit in, we can never truly be happy. Because we are fitting somebody else's ideal. We are fitting into somebody else's expectations. And way of life. We're not creating molds for ourselves. But
and again, it comes down to creating an upsetting the apple cart.
Yes.
If I do this, it's going to make somebody else unhappy. So I won't take my joy from this moment.
Exactly. And that is it's fear. It's fear of loss. And, loss is not just loss, through death. Loss is like a loss of a relationship, loss of love, loss of acceptance, loss of acknowledgement. So we're afraid of all of that. But if we truly, if we truly live in that space where, you're equanimous, I'm neither affected, whether you love me or you don't love me, I'm still the same person. And you live within that nature of you. Relationships, everything is so blissful.
Yes, relationships, like you say, can be blissful if we let them be and if we let ourselves be. And that is the thing. We hold on with such a tight fist to our own selves that we don't let ourselves go. But and I'm probably going to make a lot of people cross here, those who like posting. And I'm not talking about your post. I'm talking about people who post everything about where they've been, what they've eaten, everything that they've done. So it seems sometimes that even if we do find joy in certain things, many of us are so caught up in actually taking the nicest picture and posting our joyous moments for the world to see on social media, that sometimes we actually miss the moment itself and we miss the real feeling that moment was meant to create in us. Is that becoming a bit of an epidemic, you think? Just living for social media, what looks like a joyous moment, but we actually haven't even soaked it in being right there, being present in that moment.
That's true. But you look on the flip side to that, those that do take that brings them joy. And so if they, there are two parts to that. So the one, yes, you're missing out on really the important things. But to some people that I've come to realize lately that that's an important part of who they are. They want to be out there. They want to take the perfect selfie because looking at your picture, it brings some measure of joy within them that, I've accomplished something. So I always say, instead of looking at a glass that is half full, you should look at, okay, how can I drink this? I'm thirsty, I need to drink this. So this is important.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that. How can I drink this? Okay, I like that's a new one. Thanks very much for that. I'm going to remember that one. So, Akashni, let's just remind people who are listening to us today, those who are listening, just, Again, where are the simple things? I mean, we know nature can be a great source of joy. Sometimes just being alone. And a lot of parents are going to like this one. Just being alone for a few hours, or even like you say, half an hour, can just help you reset, can bring you the joy if you choose to make yourself happy in that time and you're not sitting making grocery lists or to-do lists. And many people find joy in physical activity or exercise or doing their daily runs with people that they love, whose company they love. So let's just remind everyone where they can find and where they can take those sips, like you say, of drinking from those cups that might be even seem half empty.
Yeah, I think surround yourself with the right company. That would be my first one. And, the right company makes a huge difference because they can propel you to do really great things. And if you don't have the right company, find a place, even if it's a toilet, go in and you can disconnect from everyone else. Right.
Lock the door.
Exactly. Stop worrying and keep it moving, because I think one of the main problems we have and where we get stuck is that everything is a problem, and we can ruminate over a problem for hours. And that problem's over. It's done. It's moved on. There's nothing left about it, but it's still living in your brain. So stop worrying. Just keep move on. The other thing is get out of your comfort zone. Comfort zones are very, they kill your soul. So every day challenge yourself to do something a little different. And
so get out of the rut.
Exactly. And, it doesn't have to be major things. It could be like if every day you said no to something. Today, say yes, which means that you got out of your comfort zone and you're saying yes to something which is totally out of character for you, but it'll push you and move you out of stagnating.
And in the context of what we're talking about, sometimes learn to say no.
Yeah.
Because saying yes to everything stresses you out. Learn to say no and take that 1 hour where somebody was asking something of you and dedicate it to yourself.
Exactly. One of the things I feel raises a mood faster than anything is have your favorite feel-good song. If you if you could find the song that wakes up your whole being, play it.
Yeah.
Because in that 3 minutes that music is playing, the whole world goes to shut. They mean nothing.
Yes. Thanks for saying shut, as opposed to what else I thought you were going to say.
No.
But if swearing brings you joy and no one is listening, that's what you need to do.
But I always...
Akash, yes.
Just coming to that point about swearing, a lot of people are very, they very, let's just say they are groomed to believe that swearing is bad, right? If you swear people, it's bad. But a lot of people find that just having to say whatever they want to say in that moment within themselves, it's such a release of that tension.
It's therapeutic. I find it very therapeutic, especially when you stub your little toe on that table and you go, oh, sherbet, that doesn't make you feel better. Try the nasty alternative. Sometimes it actually does make you feel better and you find some joy in that moment. The pain goes away quickly.
People don't realize that. So I find that if you feel that that's going to work for you, then why not? Who's there to tell you that is wrong, because it works for you?
As long as you're not hurting anyone. So I think just to wrap up, Akashni, for us, let's just remind everyone, what is the overall effect of finding those simple joys in your life on us personally, on our health as well, our well-being, and on those around us as well. Just taking all this advice that you've given us today, finding those simple moments. What is the overall effect for your life going forward from today, from hearing this and listening to this podcast?
The overall effect is that you have a better quality of life, better relationships. You are in a better mind and heart space. And nothing will bring you greater joy than when your heart and your mind is aligned and you are living mindfully in this moment every day.
Absolutely. And nature won't have to send you a snake to remind you, to bite you on the butt.
No, but I said thank you. I said thank you for it.
Yeah, okay. You're probably the first person.
With regards to children, and yes, we want to live mindfully, but also joy comes from seeing the joy in your children's face. So holidays, if you have young children, it's important that your joy will come from seeing joy in them.
And I think a lot of the time we have to go back to basics and maybe be like our children before video games and before they got their hands on cell phones. When they were little, happy to just be playing outside in the mud, getting a little dirty.
Yeah.
We need to get back to that point, don't we? We take that lesson from our kids.
Exactly. And, going back to that childlike part of you brings out a personality that is, untouched. And it's pure and innocent. And the more you get into that, even if you're running outside barefoot in the rain, that few minutes just will bring you joy.
And I think, Akashni, I know we said we were wrapping up a couple of minutes ago, but I mean, we could talk about this forever. But as we come to the end of the year, and where most people think that, you have to have extravagant holidays, big presents have to be under your Christmas tree, let's just look at the alternatives very quickly. Let's remind everyone that it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't have to be something that comes at that cost.
It doesn't have to be extravagant. I think throughout the year, listen to what makes your children happy, because sometimes the smallest things will make them happy. Not just children, everyone around you, everyone who is on this journey with you. The one of the things with individuals is that when you buy gifts that you like versus what you like versus what other people really want.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you actually are mindful and you are living joyfully, you can actually be present in noticing exactly what brings them joy. And just sometimes, just taking somebody out just for a coffee will bring that person joy.
It's just an experience.
It's the experience, because people will remember how you made them feel, not what you gave them, because that will get packed away. So I think in all aspects of life, you need to pay attention to what actually that person needs. And then you work your way accordingly, because I don't think any child really wants something that's so extravagant that it's going to break your bank.
Absolutely.
Even if it's on the top of the list, there are probably lots of other things that they need that more than that.
Well, absolutely. And I think while we're thinking of other people, do the same for yourself. Look at what you absolutely really need. Dr. Akashni Maharaj, thank you so much. Such an honest conversation. And thank you for sharing your experiences with us. Mild strokes, snake bites, hitting bottom there with the business. I mean, but look where you are, and you're the best placed person to give us this advice on finding the simple joys. Thank you so much for your time. So folks, isn't it just so true that we're so focused on what we think is the big prize at the end of a long, tedious year that we absolutely miss the obvious things around us that can bring us so much joy? There is no limit to how much joy we can create or how much is already around us, waiting to be noticed. Sometimes your biggest source of joy can be found in the smallest of things, as we've heard today. So stop, take a moment every day if you can, and just soak up the joy.